This is episode number 360 of the InnerFight podcast. Welcome back to another edition of the InnerFight podcast. My name's Mark Smith. The show is brought to you by Smith Street Paleo. In this show, we answer your questions. This is the listener Q&A. Thanks to everyone who's sent in a question. We're going to get through all of them in this show. No matter where you are in the world, thanks for tuning in. Let's jump right in. Andre, always a good show. Listener Q&A.
Yeah.
Some good questions.
Last time we had a lot of good questions.
Last time we had a lot, and we had a lot of interesting feedback based on our answers.
Yeah.
I had some arguments. I had some people that weren't super happy with what we'd said.
One thing that we're happy with was that we tried to answer it at least.
Tried to answer them all.
And we really appreciate you guys sending the questions, and please keep sending.
Absolutely. I think also in that show, there was a gentleman who listened who was super impressed with one of your answers and has since asked for some assistance in his squat.
Yeah.
So, super cool. Thank you for everyone that sent those questions in. The last Q&A show was number 342. No, 350. 342 was before that. So, where we went through managing rest and recovery, CrossFit.com workout, cheat day, what it is. Got some really interesting feedback on that. We also spoke about intermittent fasting. So if folks want to know a little bit more about intermittent fasting, and then we spoke about the squat problem. So there was quite a lot going on in there. Plenty to come for you. We've got some questions that were actually answered before. I'm going to run through these quickly. What do you think about steroids taken by competitors during the CrossFit Games? Whoever wrote that doesn't listen to the show.
Because we discussed that for a long time.
But, mate, leading on from that, the big news was, before I forget, didn't put that in the notes, before I forget, 5 people from the Meridian Regional.
Our region.
Mate, give us your thoughts on that. What do you think about it?
I would love to think that nobody takes steroids in the sport.
But 5 people got done.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works. And it just got proven. You know, none of those guys were inside the top 10, if I remember correctly. I think the guys who take steroids are often not the top dogs. And
this goes back to what Matt Fraser, what we were discussing actually in that show 350, Matt Fraser was saying, right?
He was kind of saying that, you know, he thinks there's for sure a lot of drugs in the sport, but they're mainly taken by either bubble athletes, which means athletes that are on the edge of qualifying, who, for example, finished 11th, one spot out for qualifying for regionals, or 6th for qualifying for the games. You know, those kind of athletes who are right on the edge and have been trying to break that barrier for a long time, and now they're seeking other options because they simply they lost hope, and they don't believe that, you know, it's about their training program, about the effort. They believe that everyone else is on steroids, so they have to do the same to get on that level.
Sorry, mate, carry on.
And I basically think that's sort of true. That it's those not top athletes, but still, I mean, really talented athletes. And I think the top guys, like, I know a few of them pretty well, and I've been on several training camps with them, and I would say that we're not close friends, but like, we know a few of them, and we even have Phil in the gym. He went to the games, and he got tested, and he was actually the only one who didn't get caught for drugs. And like, I've been on several training camps with Bjorkvin, and like, there's no way that guy is on steroids unless I'm just, you know, stupid.
So just to understand because I think this is quite important so people do understand it. At regionals, everyone that went to the games, so from the Meridian Regional, the top 5 males and top 5 females, they have a mandatory testing.
Yes, and I think a lot of people forget that. They're like, oh yeah, but they don't test top 5.
Right. They do. Okay, cool. The second point here is that these people that got caught were outside of the top 5. I think there was a couple of males and a couple of females here, right?
I think it was mainly males. I don't think there was any females, actually.
I think there was a female.
Maybe.
I think there was. So, but Phil also got tested, so we can presume that potentially they tested another 5 random males and another 5 random females from a field of how many individuals at regionals?
30.
From a field of 30,
Yeah.
or 40?
40.
40.
Yeah. 30 from Europe.
25% have been tested for steroids.
Yeah.
So the question says, what do you think about steroids taken by competitors during the CrossFit Games?
Not good.
I think your chances of not getting caught are quite low.
Yeah.
If you're at the top, either CrossFit are hiding it or they're all clean during the competition season. And I think this is where, and I'm not sure if I really went into details in this in podcast 350 when we spoke a little bit about steroids, and we'll round it out with this. However, the benefit of steroids generally is during the off season, and most people that use them and have used them effectively, pro athletes, have spoken outwardly about that.
Yeah.
The fact that the main use and the main gains, if you want to say, come from using the substances in the off season. And so not many people would turn up at competition with them in their body.
And the fact is, yeah, exactly. They could use them, like, let's say you're only competing at open regionals games.
Yeah.
But the rest of the season from August until March,
yeah,
potentially, I don't know how long time it takes to get it clean from your body or whatever you want to call it, but you won't lose all the gains you made in those 6-7 months.
Yeah.
And actually, one guy just told me yesterday, very randomly, that we talk about this now, but that they just created a new product that can cleanse your body with one pill or something like that. God. So you could basically take steroids all you want, and the day before the competition, it can kind of get rid of all evidence.
Just clear it out.
So, like, technology gets better and better, and therefore it's going to be harder and harder to catch everyone. It
is, and I still believe, and we'll try and close the steroids down. I still believe that some sports are trying to protect the sport and the athletes. But interesting that Meridian Regionals, 5 people got busted, banned for 4 years or 5 years from any CrossFit sanctioned competition. I think that was the bottom line.
I actually don't think it's that many years. I think it's only 2.
No, it's longer.
Really?
Yeah.
Like there was one chick who got. Yeah, I don't think she had 2 years, actually.
Check it out.
Anyways.
CrossFit were very open about it. They put it on their site, and I think they wanted to make an example of them, so they did it. The second question that we actually think we went over before, we're pretty sure we did, which is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek question. If a vegan does CrossFit, what do they talk about first? Someone like Brooksy would have definitely asked that question. And this is one that we've been over before, but we'll just give it a little bit because obviously someone is interested in it. Is calorie counting a viable way of dieting or a healthy improvisation? I'll give my simple wrap-up and direct answer to that question. Yes, it is a viable way of dieting. And actually, yes, it can be a healthy improvisation, as it said here. Do I support it? Not 100%. And do I think it's sustainable in the long term? No, not 100%. But to answer those questions, is calorie counting a viable way of dieting? Yep. If you go into calorie deficit, you'll lose weight.
Yep.
If you starve yourself, you will lose weight. Is it a healthy improvisation? Can be. Not in that situation that I've said. But if you're on 5,000 calories a day and your body only needs 2,000, then it's super healthy to bring it down.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Simple.
Done.
Agree.
We'll move to the other questions that have come in. And mate, I've noticed something really good here.
I'm excited about this.
You're excited.
More traction on Instagram.
Exactly. A lot more traction on Instagram this time. So we had a lot of stuff come through. Now, if you listen to the show, you should support these people that send us messages on Instagram. Now, the first one is at Alfoo's Photo, which is ALFOOZPHOTO. Go check out at Alfoo's Photo. Not really sure who that is. Nice Instagram name. Definitely into some photography. We'll check them out in a minute. Whilst on to answer this question, I will find out who they are. How can I balance between work and go to work out after work, and how to bring energy? Mate, how do you do all of that?
Fuel.
Right.
I think nutrition is a big thing here. I think a lot of people think that they can't work and train everything and still have energy. It's just a question of, first of all, passion, and it's a question of nutrition.
Yeah.
But if you've tried both, and you love working out, and you love your work, and you're having good nutrition, I think you should try to switch things around. I think you should try to work out as the first thing in the morning, and then go to work, and then see how you feel. So if you're usually working out late evening after 10 hours of work, then I agree. Then it must be pretty hard to have high energy.
Yeah, I agree. If you didn't work in the gym industry, mate, obviously you train at different times. But if you were a typical sort of 9 to 5er, and you could choose any time of day to work out, when would you work out?
I would definitely work out in the morning.
Morning, not lunchtime, lunch break?
No.
No. Why would you do the morning?
It's just nice to do it as first thing, like before you have all your work. Like as soon as we get into our day and with work and everything, there's going to be a lot of things in our head, like worries and things we have to do, and you might go into training a little bit. Like your head is a different place. Right. It can also be a place where you can clear your head. I'm not saying there's a one-way thing, but I would like to get it, done as first thing in the morning. Like you feel like you win the morning, you win the day. Yeah. We've had this talk before. Yeah, yeah. Like if you show up to work at 9, everyone has been sleeping in, you've been hitting it hard. Yeah. And you're gonna feel great. You're gonna feel on top, and you're gonna feel ahead.
Absolutely, mate.
And that's what's gonna bring you energy.
Yeah. That's what I used to find a lot of energy from that when I worked a 9 to 5 job all those years back. I used to work out in the morning and then hop into the office. The only thing, and I'll be totally honest, mate, by about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if I'd had a hard workout that morning, and then if I'd worked hard, I was starting to fade a little bit. That was but I worked normally till about 4:30, between 4:30 and 5:30, so I could sort of soldier on. Yeah, I think I do see a lot of people that are able to work out and get good results in the evening, but I do, and this would actually be interesting. Maybe we should do this with one of the interns, get them to do a little bit of study on our client base, a questionnaire of I see it a lot. We see a lot of people coming in the afternoon. They're looking for the Smith Street snacks before their workout. They're looking for a little bit of a pick-me-up. A lot of them, if you sit down with them, they have trouble sleeping. And I think that's why we don't really have our last class finishes at 7:30. Yeah. So, I know there's some gyms that won't close till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. We're out the door by 8 p.m. in the evening. Yeah. So, the thing, I guess one of the things here is okay, that was your choice. Now you don't have the choice, because I know what some of the listeners will come back with. They're like, well, I get up, I play with my son or daughter, my kids, have to take them to school, then go to work. The only time I have to train is after work in the evening between 6 and 8.
And fair enough.
So how can I make sure that I've got energy at that time, mate?
So that's one of the first things I said before, was the thing with nutrition. Yeah. Like, make sure you fuel properly during the whole day, and that can be through, meal prepping, making sure that you get the right amount of, carbs and protein, fat during the day. Yeah. And then, or if you're too busy to do that, you can order food. Like, just order meals. There's so many good meal plans out there now. Plan, yeah. Just, get it organized.
Like, do you think I could get a special deal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner from McDonald's? Is that the type of plan?
I think Burger King provides that.
That's better. Yeah. Do they manage my macros as well?
Of course.
Vegan option? Of course. Without steroids?
Yes.
Excellent. I'll go to Burger King then.
And then I think some consistency in the diet. Yeah. I think that's a big, big thing. Like, one day we'll eat 2,000 calories, next day we'll eat 5,000 calories. One day, we'll have no carbs, only have a lot of carbs, and it's just swinging up and down. Like, you got to get your digestive system used to the same amount of food.
Do you see that a lot in people, mate? You obviously, yes. you sort of examine people's nutrition. Talk to us about different things that you see there. Like, you say there you're seeing a different amount of nutrition from people each day. What does that actually mean? Because I think people get a little bit, they're like, no, I eat 3 square meals a day. What are you talking about?
But the food that they eat in those 3 meals are so different. Like, it could be one day, a big bowl of rice with chicken, and next day they might have, a pack of Smith Street balls. Right. And the nutrients in those two things are completely different.
Yeah.
Or one day they'll skip a meal and have a shake.
Right.
Okay, depending on what's in the shake, then it can be okay. But in most cases, it's not, because it's just a protein shake.
Yeah.
So I think, like, what I've done, massive change in my training and my dieting lately, is that I basically eat almost the same thing over and over again, except dinner. Like, dinner always varies.
Right.
But the rest of my meals are locked in.
So
and I have never felt this great.
Give us an example, mate.
So
I think this is not directly related to the question, but it's definitely something that'll help the viewers and the listeners.
Sure. So for breakfast, I'll have 1.5 cups of gluten-free organic oats, together with a full spoon of chia seeds, together with a half cup of blueberries and almond milk. That's my breakfast.
Whoa.
I'll have that with a cup of coffee and loads of water. I'll try to drink as much water as I possibly can until I feel discomfort almost.
Really?
Yeah. And then I'll typically have a snack such as a banana or a Smith Street Paleo ball or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I'll have my second meal at about 9. So if I have my first meal at 5:30 a.m., I'll have my second meal at 8:39.
Yep.
And that will be 200 grams of whitefish together with 150 grams of asparagus, together with 150 grams of, white rice, or it is, what's it called, sweet potatoes.
Okay.
And then I'll probably have a snack at 11, and I'll have my third meal at 1, which is going to be 200 grams of salmon, together with 150 grams of green beans, together with 150 grams of rice.
Right.
Then a couple hours later, I'll have a snack, and a couple hours later, I'll have another meal, and then a couple hours, and that'll be like just a Smith Street Paleo meal, typically like the lamb dinner one, and then in the evening at 8:30 p.m., I'll have my final meal.
Wow.
So quite a lot of meals, but I mean, if your day starts at 5 a.m. and ends at 9 p.m. and you've been training 2 times and you've been working 8 hours,
and you feel from that, mate, that you can, because it's consistent day after day, you have all those meals that you said, like you've rattled them off, it's exactly the same every single day. You feel that you have consistent energy, so if you need to do a session at 3 in the afternoon, which you sometimes do, you can do that. If you need to train at 9 o'clock in the morning, you can train 9, 10, it doesn't really matter.
And timing of the meals is extremely important.
Why?
Because when you eat something, you obviously need to digest it, and all the blood will flow to your digestive system to digest the food. So if you're trying to work out right after you ate, instead of having all the blood out in with the muscles you want to be working, it's other places.
Right.
And effectively, you're trying to digest while you're trying to train, and that's just not a good mix.
Yeah, right.
So definitely, like, timing, like if you have a big meal, at least have 2 hours or something like that in between,
and then it can get down. Is that something that you put together yourself, mate, or have you had some help in putting that nutrition plan together? So
essentially, I did something very, very similar by myself, just by feeling, but I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing.
Okay.
So I saw a nutritionist, and she sort of confirmed and changed a few things, and since then I've been flying.
Everyone's going to ask it, so I'll ask it, or everyone's going to want to know. Days off, is that every single day, 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week, or how does it go?
Days, like nutrition-wise?
Yes, nutrition.
It's pretty much the same every day. Every day. Obviously, if I take my girlfriend Natalie out for brunch on a Friday morning or Saturday morning...
You take your fish with you.
I don't take the white fish with me. I'll have whatever I want.
Where's your commitment?
But, it really depends on the training. Like, if I have a non-training day, then I'm sort of a little bit more flexible.
Okay.
But if it's a training day, I'm very strict. Because I want to make sure that I feel the same way for every session.
Day. Very good. Very good. So I've had a look, and I've tried to find out who Alfu's photo is. They have a private account, so I can't find that out. Maybe InnerFight, they followed on InnerFight, but I don't follow them, so I can't give thanks to Alfu's photo, but I suggest everyone goes and should have a look, but they can't because it's a private account, so they can't do that, and you can't make a decision. Hopefully that helps. How can I balance energy between work and going for workout after the gym? Next question. This guy. Anyone
Tufik.
remember this guy? Tufik_13.
Where has he been?
Where has he been? He came, he did this big talk at Inner Talks about caving, the deepest cave in the world, got his feet all chopped up into pieces, and
Then stop training and start coming eating all the food.
that's it. He asks, Tufik, by the way, linking on from this question of veganism, Tufik is or was a vegan for a very long time. I think he still eats a very vegan-based diet. Not because of anything in particular, just because that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He's talking to us today about food. He says, what do you think of frozen fruits in general and of frozen berries in specific? Many claim they are better than the fresh ones since they are frozen the moment they are cultivated. Any thoughts on that, mate?
Oof. I have to be honest, that's a topic that I am not quite sure about.
I have, I know, and I mean, bar doing a load of research on this, I have a couple of general feedback points that I've found from my experience. One is I've seen quite a lot of frozen fruits that have sugar added to them. So they'll have obviously fruit has fructose in it anyway, but these quite a few fruits that I've seen frozen have sugar added to it. So always try and get the non-frozen ones. This is an interesting claim, and I again, without getting specific on it or really doing some research, many claim they are better than the fresh ones since they are frozen the moment they are cultivated. I guess, theoretically speaking, and this is the ideal scenario, if the berry is picked, immediately washed in water, and then shock frozen and bagged, you're probably in one of the purest forms.
Yeah.
Outright agreed. However, I don't really
I don't think that's very realistic.
I don't know. One thing I will say is that with frozen fruits, if you take something like a blueberry, and he's obviously spoken about berries here. If you take something like a blueberry or a strawberry, if you get it fresh, and this could open up a whole can of worms. I want your thoughts, folks. Drop us a mail, winning@InnerFight.com. Let us know how you eat your berries. I know that sounds quite strange, but it's all good. We're all friends, and we're just trying to make each other better. When I have frozen blueberries or strawberries, they're quite mushy when they get defrosted, right?
Yeah.
So, but one thing I do like them for is I think they're super good for a shake.
Great for shakes.
Doesn't bother me for a shake, but if I want fresh blueberries on my morning on the cereal or porridge, the mixture that I use for my breakfast, I'm not fussed if it's not fresh, but it's a different taste, right?
Yeah.
So very interesting. If folks, if you do know about that, or someone might say, Brooks here turn around and say, well, we should have researched that, but yeah, there we go. Hopefully that answers your question, Tufik, and I honestly, sincerely hope that we see you soon in the gym. I actually hope that he's even listening to the podcast so that he knows that we want to see him in the gym.
He is.
He is.
The next one.
There we go. Hit us up.
Whoa. Llama. I think that's
this is
her.
Llama, isn't it? Yeah.
I at IK_pink_warrior. How do you push as hard as possible? In other words, how do you know that you've reached your limit? Sometimes my strength fails me, yet I'm still comfortable at a cardio level, and other times I feel like I'm dying, but after 2 minutes, as if nothing happens. What's max effort? Is it measurable? Boom.
This is a super, super good question.
How do you push as hard as possible?
Point of action here is hop over and listen to podcast 358, Living with Intensity.
Yes.
Hopefully that helps. Therefore, what's max effort, and is it measurable? Is it measurable? Yes.
Yep.
And, I guess it's almost like infinity. Well, if you'd have pushed a little bit harder, you'd have gone 1 second faster. It is a little bit subjective here. However, I find it difficult to believe that, she says here, other times I feel like I'm dying, and then 2 minutes after as if nothing happened. you probably weren't dying.
That could be. I think when she says that, I can imagine it's like, let's say I put 100 kilo back squat on you, or
Right, okay.
or like 80% of your max.
Yep, got it.
Do as many reps as you can.
Got it.
You'll be completely destroyed doing it.
Yeah.
But I bet a couple of minutes after,
You're going to be super fine.
You'll actually be fine. And when we say I'm dying, I think it means my lungs are exploding.
My lungs are exploding.
It's not like, oh, my legs hurt.
Yeah. I think one thing as well, which we have spoken about a lot on the show, and back in Technology in Fitness podcast 336, I'd also send her back there where we spoke in depth about using heart rate monitors for measuring where you're at. Yep. I think that's a really good measure, because if you take like she says I'm still comfortable at a cardio level. Like, if you're comfortable, that's not max effort.
No.
Do I want your heart exploding? Do I want it over 200 every time? No. Again, listen to that show.
Other things can be a limiter.
Yeah. So I think, and I also think it's. She asks here, how do you know that you've reached your limit?
You know.
You kind of know.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of know that you just literally cannot push anymore. I think a lot of it, though, is really the development of the relationship that you have with your body and in turn with pain.
Yeah, to be honest, it takes time to learn to be able to dig that deep. Like,
Correct.
If you do it for your very first time, you might not be able to tap into like that hurt locker. Like,
exactly.
It's going to take time to get used to being able to push that extra inch every single time.
Yeah. And I think I really think that is about understanding your body.
Yeah.
I think it's not something that, some days 180 beats a minute, I don't even know I'm there. And some days at 165 beats, I just don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's very subjective to what's gone on and how you perceive things, but I think I really think sort of, I do bike sets, I do workouts where I just know that day I just have not got it. I could just try and I just wouldn't hit the numbers that I know I'm capable of. So, but that's because I think I've worked a lot on understanding my body and my relationship with pain, and I sort of understand it. So there are some measurables out there, Lama. I think, as Andre said, you feel like you're dying after 2 minutes, nothing happened. If that's a long cardio workout, then your recovery is either super fast or you probably could have pushed it a little bit harder. And I think they're the measures that we can put in place. She goes on to say, do you believe that the mainline class, or in other words, the workout of the day, although sometimes as little to 7 to 10 minutes, is enough to improve fitness levels? Why? And if not, what do you recommend if someone wants to lose weight, be more fit, and gain strength, given they have a 9-to-5 job?
I for sure think that the mainline classes would be enough to improve your fitness level.
Yeah.
Regardless. Like,
I think if I could get specific within our community, mate, I think I'd take someone like Neil Bryans, who's 43 or 44 years old. The only fitness he does, I think I've seen him in the last 5 years go paddleboarding once. The only fitness he does is the mainline class 5 days a week.
Yeah.
He is one of the fittest guys when it comes to the conditioning. He's not the strongest, but he's one of the most ripped guys in the gym. And he's 44 years old. So, and he's been with me for 8 years, and he's followed the daily workout and all the nutrition advice that I've given him. So,
simple.
And he's taken the short workouts with the long workouts, with the heavy workouts, with the light workouts, and he's at a super... And I don't know, I would say for a 44-year-old dad of two, he would be pound for pound one of the strongest that I know.
Yeah.
So I think,
I think it comes down to don't overcomplicate things. Like, effort is a choice. If you put in a real effort and, like, full focus in everything you do, like, you make sure you move with intention and, you do your very best in every single part of that mainline class, you will see some extreme gains. But if you just, go through the flow, just go with the movements, you're not really there 100%, you're constantly giving, 85% in the workouts instead of 100, then you might start asking this question, am I actually getting fitter?
Yeah.
But you're asking the wrong questions.
Yeah.
You should ask yourself, like, truly be honest with yourself. Am I giving my very best every time?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can honestly be true to yourself and say yes, then come and we'll figure something out, and we might, try to have to take you to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also our zones of progression probably answer those questions for you as well. So if I answer this question literally, and we've been quite literal in our answers today, do you believe that the mainline classes, or in other words, is enough to improve fitness levels? Yes, absolutely. Why? We've just explained why. And yeah, that means there's no second part to the question, because if not, do you recommend if someone wants to lose weight, to be more fit and gain strength, then have a 9-to-5 job? No. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that people think that they need to do more because they have goals. No, the class really, what you need to focus more on is your recovery and your nutrition. And we're like broken records saying it, but that's actually the reason why, if you wanted to lose weight, the reason why you have weight, you will lose weight if you eat accordingly.
Yeah.
I have some guys that I'm coaching at the moment that they have really stressful jobs where they're on their feet the whole time, and one of them does not do anything except his job because it is so physically demanding, but he takes care and his nutrition is on point and he's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So there we go. Let's move on to a Scott abroad.
Whoa.
This is Laura, who came to us through Monty at the bike shop.
I thought it was a Scott abroad.
A Scott abroad. A Scott abroad. A Scott abroad _ She says, is vomiting your life up generally a good indication that you should stop? Or should you struggle on through? Thoughts on that, mate?
Oof. I've been big into vomiting after workouts. Like, very big, and it's happened so many times. I actually think there's every single open workout I've ever done, I've almost been throwing up after each.
Right. Is that good?
But
are we happy with that?
I thought first that was normal, and I've been doing it for a very, very long time. But after I saw a nutritionist, and we kind of started closing out a few things in my diet, like gluten and dairy,
right,
I actually haven't had a problem ever since.
Right.
And I have done some nasty stuff. So if you're constantly throwing up after the workout, it can come down to your nutrition, but it could also come down to, what was it? My coach, we talked about the way my breathing mechanics work. Like, if your diaphragm is not working properly, it can affect your digestive system, and it can just affect your organs and make you super sick.
Right.
So that's a bit more complicated. I don't have all the details on that, but that might be a problem as well. So if it's a good indication that you should stop, if it happens mid-workout, then yes, but normally it happens after workouts for me.
Right.
If it happens mid-workout, stop.
Yeah,
because that means that you're not feeling good and something is wrong in your digestive system.
Yeah,
or you paced that workout completely wrong.
That's an option. I also want to put a little caveat in here. We were talking a little bit earlier about timings of things, timings of meals when you put the food in and stuff. So I want to say, if you have a big cup, and I've done this before, if you have a big cup of coffee too close before a workout, and it's a really, it's just massively on the lungs, or a lot of burpees, jumping up and down, I've thrown up, and I've thrown up that coffee and wash it down, have a little bit of a drink of water, and keep on going, and you're okay. So it is very situational. However, if you are, like you said, Andre, if you're just spewing up a lot, then I don't think you should be struggling through. But if you know that you've just had, a steak, and an hour later you're trying to air bike your face off, then I would suggest you just sort of, maybe go and get rid of it and maybe carry on. But I think you should just be a little bit careful if it's happening often. I haven't seen Laura being sick too much.
Me neither.
Maybe she does it in the bathroom.
Maybe she's very discreet.
You should definitely do it in the bathroom or out of the way. It's quite... Or in a bucket.
Bucket is a classic.
Yeah, bucket's good.
Usually Mia helps me out with the bucket.
With the bucket.
She always brings it.
It's just so annoying cleaning up spew after, like, or do it outside and let the rain wash it away. The rain.
All the rain here.
Yeah. One more decent question here. We've left this one till last, but it's something that I think will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Patrick is a sales manager from Berlin at a company called Foodspring. Patrick,
he actually lives in Switzerland.
Okay, there we go. You know this guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Patrick Funk, super good CrossFit coach.
There we go. He's listens to the show, sent us a question, and we appreciate it. He says, don't know if you still have Q&A on the InnerFight podcast. We do. We're here. Ask us questions. Winning at InnerFight.com. We'd love to hear from you anyway. If yes, I have a question where I'd love to get your opinion and answer on. I think there's a lot of people who are interested in this as well. We agree. Squat mobility. At one point, do you decide in keeping the ankle mobility as it is and switch to work on hip mobility and stance to compensate ankle stiffness? Andre Mobility Houdet, please answer this question.
So, first of all, I would take a look at... So, I know Patrick, and he's been struggling with ankle mobility for quite a while, and he told me he's been working on his ankle mobility for a long time, and that his progression has been super, super small, basically. He hasn't progressed a lot throughout the mobility work he's been doing. So... I think that, first of all, I would take a look at what mobility work have you been doing, and then you can figure out why it's maybe not working. It could be that, it's a soft tissue restriction, or it can be a joint restriction.
Right.
So I would kind of take a look at that. I would experiment with other different methods, like, have you been stretching a lot, or have you been rolling a lot? Have you been doing, like, some active dynamic stuff? Like, have you been adding load to it? All kind of things. On my YouTube channel, I've plenty of ankle mobility videos. So if you're struggling with that, you should definitely go give some of them a try. I think you should always be working on most of the things. I think what you don't work on, you lose.
Right.
I have pretty good mobility, but that doesn't keep me from still working on it.
Right.
And remember that mobility and flexibility is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Flexibility is no strength in a lot of range of motion, which means that I would say typically, without like bashing yoga people, but they have a lot of range of motion. They can move very freely, but they can't create torque in the muscles. So you can have great overhead mobility, but if I told you to do an overhead squat with 50 kilos, it's just gonna, break your shoulders off.
Flop around, yeah.
So now that's actually almost worse to have a lot of flexibility with no strength. Whereas mobility is a lot of range of motion with a lot of strength.
Right.
So you're able to create torque in that position.
Got it.
So I would constantly work on the ankles and on the hips and, just experiment with different movements. You should never, if you've been squatting with your feet narrow your whole life, then you've been doing it wrong. I think you should always be practicing different things to stimulate your body as it can be. It's wide stance, narrow stance, regular stance. If you find the angles are the main limiter, well, then spend a lot of time on it, but don't forget about your hips.
Yeah.
Everything is linked together.
Absolutely. It's all a chain, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, mate, I sort of empathize here a little bit with Patrick. I suffer from quite tight ankles as well, and also had quite tight hips. I found, and this is not contradictory to what you said, it sort of agrees and disagrees, but I found that the improvements that I was able to create, or the progress I was able to realize in hip mobility, was a lot faster than what I was able to realize in my ankle mobility. But I do believe that that's because the bones in my ankles have been broken. So
that's a whole nother thing,
it's completely different.
Bone structure, how you build can also be a limiter. Some people can have an amazing mobility, but their butt is still very far from touching the floor.
Yeah,
just of how their legs are built.
Correct. So that's kind of what I want to say to people is that I think you have to address everything, but if there is really And this, I mean, it's not completely self-diagnosed, but it is a little bit. But see someone to get it checked out, and they might realize that actually, the investment, the time investment return on, in this case, a load of ankle work compared to a little bit of hip work is not proportionate. So, yes, you'd work on your ankles. Do I still work on my ankles? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Is the progress super slow? It's horrifically slow. Like, it's demotivatingly slow. But the work that I do on my hips is actually helping a little bit as well. So it's kind of the structural side, as you said, I think is very individual. And that's why it's worth getting someone to have a look at it.
Yeah. And make sure to experiment. Make sure to try a lot of different things. Like, I've seen you do your ankle mobility work, and a lot of it is very much the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes from, a lack of, like, having a big library of movements you can do.
Yeah.
And, if you want to gain as much range of motion as possible and some strength in it, we need to constantly try to explore and expose
and things,
and figure out new ways.
There we go.
Yeah,
Hopefully
I hope that answers the questions. If not,
it does.
Then please shoot me a message on Instagram, or if you want some ankle mobility, hip mobility movements,
YouTube channel.
Yeah, or I'm happy to shoot some new ones or whatever.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Mate, that's all the questions. That's just over 40 minutes. This has been episode number 360. We've answered your questions. We'll continue to do that, so please write them up in the gym. Try not to write ones that we've already answered. But if you didn't hear it, we'll definitely direct you to that show. Winning at InnerFight.com. We'd love to hear from you. InnerFight on Instagram. You can flip them over there. And if we haven't answered your question wholly, if there is another part of it, come back to us. We'll continue the conversation. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. Thank you to everyone who shot us a message for today's show. Alfu's photo, 2fic_13 at IK_pink_warrior and at Scott Abroad _ as well as Patrick, who sent us an email. Andre, it's been a pleasure. Some really good stuff
Until
there.
Next time.
Look forward to the next show. Thanks a lot for tuning into this episode of the podcast, folks. Do hope you've enjoyed it. As always, flick us an email, winning@innerfight.com. We'd love to hear from you. Rate, review the podcast. Get yourself a bunch of goodies from Smith Street Paleo. Just let us know that you've done it. Until next time, take care.